welcome to another brand new episode of Down Memory Lane. As we saw in my last Sega retrospective centuries ago, Sega was pretty much prone to take well-established genres and put their own little twist to it, so today we'll see what they did with their slice of the JRPG pie, Phantasy Star. A game that was released in Japan 2 days after Final Fantasy in December of 1987. Phantasy Star will actually be the very first JRPG to be released in America, and one of the very few that will actually get released at all in Europe for the following decade. Phantasy Star takes place in the Algol star system, which once lived in harmony under the watchful eye of King Lassic. That was until he joined a new cult that was the in thing of the moment, and turned into a big bad evil tyrant of evilness, who places all of his big cities under martial law with stormtroopers as guards. On the green planet of Palma, some dude called Nero was looking into what was going on and gets killed right there in the streets, in front of our main protagonist of this story, his sister Alice. She vows revengeance and swears to take down the evil Lassic. So with our blade in hand, let's bash him up. Okay. The first thing that comes to mind about Phantasy Star, for a game of the 8-bit generation of course, is how beautiful the graphics are. Everything is so vibrant when you compare it to Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest. Even when you speak to townspeople, you have a nice shot of the village surrounding you. Also, the comic style portraits really bring you into the action, and it's good to see what your characters actually look like in game, instead of having to find an artwork in the manual. Along her journey for revenge, Alice will find new allies like Odin the warrior, Noah the mage, Esper, and Meow the cat. Really? Meow the cat? Couldn't find a better name for that? And in fact, I don't want to spoil anything, but that vengeance against Lassic and finding allies to do it is about 95% of the story. This is more a game about exploring this strange world to find clues, item for a lot of fetch quests, and dungeon crawling, which we'll come back to in a minute. Even when you find Odin, the poor guy has been turned to stone by Medusa because he was searching for a legendary axe. Much later in the game, when you kill said Medusa at the end of an obnoxiously long tower, you just get the axe. That's it. And as for the world itself though, well, that's something else. First of all, the universe has been taken over by the Burger King. I swear the only food people have on all 3 planets is burgers and colas. These are basically your potions in this game. Our team just stuff their faces when they're hurt with damp burgers and flat colas. How far does it go exactly? Well, there's a part in which you need to speak with the governor of the desert planet of Motavia, because he has suspicions about Lassic. But he will only see you if you can bring him a cake. Now where exactly do you buy a cake here? The only baker that exists is in a cave on another planet at the other end of the solar system. That weird king's tyranny has no end. Also, that guy takes care of an entire planet, okay? I can't even begin to imagine how busy he must be in his everyday life, and oh, he greets us just like that, alright. Anyway, there's also a shopkeeper who sells you secrets. What it is, I don't know, but you need to speak to him 3 times to buy it. Speaking of which, this game gives me the opportunity of tackling a subject I haven't talked about in this show yet. English. Which is kind of a mix between the Japanese and English languages, which pretty much results in a really weird translation. So what it means basically is that we get to buy our burgers at a fast food shop, and when you try to heal someone at the hospital who's actually okay, he needs not be healed. Also, one of the final bosses that really comes out of freaking nowhere is called Dark Fars. But this was the very first Japanese role-playing game to be released in the West, so those were the translations of the time. Other than that, the townspeople are pretty much information bored, and you will need to speak to everyone in order to know what to do. Also, who knew that the Catholic Church was into the dark arts of raising the dead? For now, you must be telling yourself, well, except for the space setting, that this game have anything interesting to offer, it's getting kinda boring. And well, for the rest, this game is actually quite ahead of its time, or really out there. First of all, you can save anywhere in this game. On the map, in a town, in a dungeon, and that will not happen for at least a decade on consoles. Also, this game gives you 5 slots to save your game. 5! On the following generation of consoles, you know, the Super Nintendo and the Genesis mostly, games will give you 3 or 4 tops. Also, now's a good time to talk about the battles, and it's pretty standard turn-based stuff actually, like Dragon Quest. Except you only fight groups of one sort of monsters, and they have actual attack animations. Again, very few games in this generation have that. Although some of these animations can be quite long for no good reason. Come on, barf on me already, I wanna hit you! Also, your attack target is entirely random, which can be pretty annoying sometimes. Also, you don't see the damage you inflict, but instead you constantly see the HP of your enemies, which does make keeping track of your party efficiency pretty much impossible. And instead of giving you money after the battle, it's always in a chest you need to open, which makes me chuckle when I imagine a bunch of flies lugging a chest around, which might even be booby-trapped. Equipment wise, it's pretty standard stuff too, except for the guns, which only Odin can use. They are usually weaker than the rest, but they hit all monsters for a set amount of damage, and they never miss. When you attack with everything else, the damage may vary greatly, so it's very useful with enemies with high defenses. Only downside is that the strongest gun, the laser gun, tears their ears off with the worst noise in video gaming history. Oh, stop that! Now, I don't know how you can fit 5 mammoths in a hallway, but Odin will always hit all 5 of them with a single laser. But the one thing that fans of this game remember it mostly for is the dungeons, in first-person view. It was not the first game to use a first-person camera, but it was very impressive at the time. And the programmer behind the system, none other than Yuji Naka, eventual co-creator of Sonic the Hedgehog. Strangely enough, the dungeon exploration in this game really sucks you into the game, as you wander through the caves, towers, and other caves and towers that this game has to offer. And some of those dungeons are surprisingly well designed, and as you go into the adventure, they have multiple floors, they have more and more traps, and chests that blow up in your face, and they become fiendishly complex. Also, you don't really have any statues or any landmark to retrace your steps. Yep, nothing but these monochromatic hallways. But thankfully you have your map. Oh, you thought I was about to show you an in-game map, weren't you? No, these are your maps. That's right, this game makes you work your way through the dungeons. You have to deserve its treasures. And you'd better not make any mistakes, or you might get screwed up by getting at the end of your sheet or back where you were not supposed to. And it will happen. And some of those final dungeons have really complex maps. And for a while, you know, it works. It really is immersive, it's fun. But if you're like me, you want to explore every nook and cranny of these dungeons for some hidden treasures, stopping every few steps to draw your map, of course. And when some dungeons have between 5 and 8 floors to them, it feels like busy work. I play games to relax and escape a bit, and for you guys of course, but when I get back after a arduous day at work and to resume my map drawing quest, I admit that there are times I wasn't motivated to play at all. Also, other than the dungeon's main objective, most chests have either money, burgers that must be absolutely rotten at this point, ew, or are just outright empty and trapped. Oh, this door is locked, let's see what's behind that, it must be something good. Ah, Jesus! And when you find that legendary sword or axe after your 3rd visit through the dungeon, you feel more relieved that it's finally over than satisfied. Or, you know, you could always use online maps on PS Cave or GameFAQs or something. Sure, Meow, got that name. Meow can disarm traps, which is necessary in some places, but you want to keep your MP for healing with a cure spell, you know. Also, let's not forget it's an 8-bit JRPG, so the battle encounter rate is through the roof. Look, here I fight a battle, get its money chest, open the chest that was there in the first place, get into another fight. Or sometimes, you escape a tough battle to run away right into another worse one. That red dragon is a boss in another dungeon, by the way. And sometimes far into the game you will get into monsters from the beginning of the game right alongside some really hard monsters who wield some very powerful spells. And the EXP is not worth much more either, So most of the time I just ran away to spell some healing. But despite the high encounter rate, most battles are done pretty quickly, so there's that. Also, you shouldn't need to stop on your tracks to grind for EXP or money too much because of it. Also, structure-wise, the Algol star system is quite open, especially when you get your own spaceship to go on all 3 planets. You can also get a Land Rover, a hovercraft, and an ice digger, which all takes the same space as burgers in your inventory, of course. But you'd better take note about what the citizens tell you. These guys might pretty much be information boards in nature, but their info is needed to get anywhere. Even stuff from the beginning might actually be very important towards the end of the game. You might even run into a farmer in a random battle. You can talk to them or kill them as you wish. And Noah's telepathic abilities with Dragon is vital to your quest. Other than that, I preferred the first half of the game because I thought it had the most interesting ideas. The governor with the cake, the secrets you need to insist for. This game even gives you a questionnaire to get your passport. Second half of the game is mostly dungeon crawling, which makes it drag a bit. Also, I know you might have noticed, but Alice is a woman. I know it sounds dumb, but the most notable female protagonist we had until now is Samus Aran. And look at her! Sega went all out in showing she's female, and good for them. Another thing I briefly touched upon, but you can talk to monsters, and it won't happen often after that, let me tell you. So that's pretty much my takeaway for Phantasy Star. It has a lot of great ideas, but it's still an unbalanced 8-bit JRPG of its time. Not taking the guide route and playing the game as I did, it asks a lot out of you. If you like these old 8-bit JRPGs and you like to be involved with the game, take notes, draw your own map and all that, you will find a gem here. For everyone else, have a guide open when you play this game. I played it like that a few years back, and I remember still having a good time. Also, how you're supposed to find these hidden doors without a map is beyond me. You have no choice in the final dungeons, but before that, I don't know. Other than on the Master System, you can find Phantasy Star hidden in Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection, and it's unlocked if you play Sonic 2 in 2-player mode. So that was Phantasy Star. It took me a shorter time to finish than Final Fantasy 1, but somehow it felt longer. Next time we meet will be for another JRPG that I have never touched actually, and that is considered one of the 5 best games of all times in Japan. So I'll see you then guys, till then, stay awesome and keep on gaming.